Hi there, Beaver, and welcome to the special edition of the Beaver Show. So today we are blessed with Mark Resurrectus, that's presenting himself for the CSM 18. And without further ado, let's go into the intro.
EVE Online. Lost 23,000 years in the future, our group of space Canadians are sorry in advance. Morning breaks, and the beavers poke their noses out of the dam to see where it has drifted overnight. Which makes every day a new adventure because they never know what they're going to stumble upon. To help them better understand this dark and gloomy world located outside of the dam, Daddy and Mommy Beaver, also called Ben and Dam, explain life to young beavers outside of their dam. So we welcome you, young beaver, to the Beaver Show.
And welcome back, Beaver. We are blessed today. The Super Mark Resurrectus, our CSM representative, is in the dam today with us. Well, first, thank you, Mark, to bless you by your holy presence down the dam here. How are you?
I'm well, thank you, Ben. I appreciate it. It's been a long time coming. I've not been on your show before, but I've watched a lot of your show, and I appreciate the invite. Thank you.
You're most welcome. For those people that do not know who you are, could you present yourself, please?
Sure. I'm Mark Resurrectus. I'm the CEO of a corp called the Holy Roman Empire, and we are I'm also the executor of the Turbo Feed or Glory Alliance. We are a C5 wormhole alliance. We live in a C5 black or red giant. We've been out here since 2020 was when we founded the alliance. 2019 when we founded the corp, and we've been sort of active in this space for a long time. One of the more active groups in wormhole space right now. I specifically have been playing EVE since 2006, when I was just a kid, and off and on for a long time. I was very briefly in test in 2016, and then I moved to my first wormhole corp in 2019, and been out here ever since. So I ran for CSM on CSM 16 and was 12th out of all those whoever ran. And I would have been in if Sutonia had taken the job at CCP just a little bit earlier, but I did not, and then ran again last year for CSM 17 and made it in, and was the ninth taken. So I have the reason and we'll get into it more, I'm sure, but my biggest reason for wanting to run again is there's a lot of stuff that I am still working on. A lot of projects that I would hate to leave unfinished at this point. So much of what we do with CCP on a day-to-day basis is just trying to find time to work with people, work with different developers, different members of their team to try and find solutions to problems that we run into. And while we don't necessarily have a direct hand in seeing stuff actually go into the game, finding ways to influence people and share your perspective and share your opinions and thoughts. There's a lot of work on that side. It's very very diplomatic in a lot of different ways to try and get stuff done. So I'm still working on some big projects over there. I don't want to stop in the middle of them because that feels like it would be kind of lame. So we're going to do it again, and hopefully we have as much success this year as we did last year. I also I'm the co-host of the Meta Show. I on Imperium News every Saturday at 4 o'clock with Brisk Rubal. I've been doing that.
Not last Saturday though.
Well, not Brisk was not there last Saturday. Did you watch that show? It was horrifying.
Yes,
Oh God, it was so scary. I had never done it before. Never done the show by myself before, and going into it, I had everything staged because I'd streamed before. Like I had everything staged. I knew what I was going to do, And when it first kicked off, and the audience is like, "Oh, we can't hear anybody," I nearly sweat to death. It was horrifying, but it ended up being okay. We're pretty busy there. But I actually won't be doing that next week because I'm also casting for the AT this year. I'll be one of the, I think, six or eight commentators for the AP or the AT.
Oh,
Yeah, I know. I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be really, really fun.
That's nice.
I did some during Ginton's Captain's Cup a couple months back, and we also I was casting for the feeders too a couple weeks ago. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it.
Awesome, that's really great. So you've been talking about like unfinished project and so on. Like about all that, what are you allowed to reveal concerning those that we can actually like get a little cookie there?
That's so the man, it's tricky. I can
Yeah, I know.
I can talk about what I have accomplished so far and what I've still want to accomplish.
Okay, let's go there that way then.
Right. So in terms of things we've gotten done, there are quite a bit actually. I've been pretty happy about, and even things that, as much of a cop out as I feel like it is a lot of times to say like, oh, you guys don't know what might have been coming if we hadn't been here. But there has been a fair amount of that, and none of it is. I don't think there's any ill will involved. I think a lot of it is just CCP. They develop the game, they produce the game. That's their job, right? They go to work, wake up every day, walk through the blizzard to get to CCP headquarters, sit down and work on EVE Online. Their relationship with the game is so much different than ours. They don't have, and not to say that this is the case with everybody. A lot of them have played the game, do play the game. I would say it's probably unlikely that most of them play the game with the same frequency that a lot of us do. Just by virtue of, it's just like anything else. If you own a pizza shop, you're not going to be eating pizza every single night because you're going to get tired of it eventually, right? The same thing kind of applies here too, where they spend a lot of time working on the game. They spend a lot of time, thinking about the game, trying to, find creative solutions to problems in the game, and that doesn't always translate to I want to play the game every single night when I get home. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we have, by virtue of our relationship with the game being different, we have a lot. Our perspective is different. We have a much different experience than they do. So we're able to offer a unique point of view that they wouldn't have otherwise, right? So in general, whenever things come up, we always, we offer advice, we offer suggestions, we offer guidance in as much as we can. So there has been a fair amount of that on our part. In terms of things that we've actually seen, we got a handful of fixes last year. Frig holes were a big one.
Well,
we
mixed emotion concerning those.
Certainly mixed emotions. I think there was a lot of. It was making the best of a bad situation. I have said several times, during last campaign and this year and during the campaign before last, that I don't believe that there should be any systems in the game without counterplay. Yep. And that we should make available options for people who, want to try and counter systems that do not have counterplay. So reducing the life of frig holes down to 4 hours was maybe the better option, given the set of options we had at the time. I still feel like there should be a more arcane system involved, because that's what, in the old days, if you wanted to roll a frig hole, there was a system to do it. It was a difficult system, and it was not one that everybody who did it was very familiar with, so it seemed really random to a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Those kind of systems are fun. That being said, reintroducing a bug that existed just for the sake of rolling frig holes was probably not going to be something that was ever on the table. So we got what we got.
Yeah.
Like I said, No, go
Concerning
ahead,
those
please.
frig holes, if I may interrupt, would it be possible, like, to just like find a way, like a device, trigger-login device, to make like random frig hole from your hole, so that way you can still enjoy them? Because there's like it's quite frustrating when I'm like at work and like I got my alliance mates say, "Hey, we got a frig hole. It's gonna be nice. We will get like all this thing. There's a C13 down the line." Yeah, but I'll still be working when like when it's gonna be done.
So the way it works out is it kind of went both ways, right? So while the frig holes themselves are less likely to spawn, they are more, or rather, not less likely to spawn. They have less lifetime.
Yeah,
They are
4 hours.
more likely to spawn.
Okay.
So in the grand scheme, you should get more of them. The one thing that we don't have currently that I do wish we had, because one of the reasons people don't use frig holes as much as they used to now is because frig holes often spawn in at end of life, which is what we wanted and what we suggested early on. But what that means is when you see a frig hole, you don't have any way of determining how long it's going to be around, right? When you see a wormhole normally, you can kind of look at it and see, okay, well, if it's not end of life yet, then that means at least, it's got at least 4 hours of life left on it, right? You can't do that currently with frig holes because frig holes spawn in. The long frig holes that spawn in at the upper end of their lifespan, because it's a range of like 10%
Yep.
either way, might be not end of life for a few minutes, and then will almost immediately go end of life, and everything else goes into life immediately. And that doesn't give you any useful information. You can't gauge how much time you have to work with a frig hole by that. So what I would like to do, and one of the things that I have been pushing for over the last couple of months, is trying to get the frig holes that we have change them up slightly so that they are you have more information about how long they're going to last. Maybe move that end of life timer down to the last hour instead of the last the full length of their lifetime, because having them spawn in and then immediately go end of life is not very helpful. So
Indeed.
it's not a perfect system. There's still a lot of work that needs to go into it. But it was one of the things we wanted to hit early on, just because there are, in both directions, it is a system that does not offer any counterplay, and that is kind of frustrating.
There's no way to easily like sell those.
Yeah, well, there's no way to there's no way to roll them. Period. It
Yeah.
just can't be done. There's no amount of mass that you can put on them to roll them, because they immediately regenerate it. So it's frustrating. Under different circumstances, maybe we could have gotten something different, but you work with what you got. So we did get that. We managed to get. There was a bug early on. This is one of the first couple things we managed to get taken care of, where sleeper rats and wormhole space weren't scramming things that were in Bastion, which meant that if you were in a site, all you had to do was have a combat or a command destroyer lined up that could boost your entire fleet off if somebody jumped in, and you could do that because nothing would scram you. So we fixed that, made it a little bit easier to catch marauder crabs, and there are a lot of marauder crabs even now after the next thing we did, which was curbing the marauder meta. We did a lot of work that has been maybe one of the biggest things that we accomplished this year, among other things. Marauders were super broken for a long time, were basically the only thing you saw in a lot of fleets. You would have people show up with small gangs, and they would be immediately responded to by groups of 10, 15 marauders. So one of my contributions got in there. They did increase the length of the Bastion timer, which was my suggestion. I actually did not suggest a minute, but they went a little bit longer than I had suggested. I thought 45 seconds would be pretty good, but either way. And then they pulled a couple other ideas too. They increased the mass, so they're less. It's not as easy to get them through wormhole space anymore, and a handful of other smaller, things here and there. So they're still very strong. They're still about the best crabbing ships that you can use, unless you're using dreadnoughts.
Well, in
So
like a high end wormholes.
correct, in high end wormholes, and even I was gonna say even C4s for sure. They absolutely wreck shop. But I've seen people run. You can fit a relatively cheap Varger and run C3 sites to your heart's content. I don't know if it's worth it, considering the amount of
Well, because
effort.
there's a lot of like frigate and destroyers in C3s, so
There are. But again, the ships themselves are still strong. You can usually shed tackle pretty easily in a Varger or a Paladin, or they are good options for people who want to run high class sites for certain, while not being a crippling influence on the meta as a whole. So we feel pretty good about that. There's still some things I think that we're going to want to readjust at some point, but one of the biggest things we've been trying to stress with CCP over the last couple of months, and this is not new or anything, but iteration is important. I feel like it is the worst thing you can do, I think, in any kind of development of any video game development. The work that I do is complete it, work on a system, get to the point that you like, and then decide your hands off. The last thing you want to do is convince yourself that you have reached the peak of how good something can be. That's not really good business. So what I mean to say is you're always better trying to find the best solution you can find. You should never convince yourself that you have reached that best solution. And so, when we talk about Marauders, do I think Marauders are in a better spot than they were a couple months ago? Yes, I do believe that. Do I believe that they are in the best possible spot that they are in? No. And that only makes it the only reason that matters is if CCP doesn't come back after a period of time, look at the numbers that they've got, look at the information that they've been able to pull from the last couple of months, and say, oh yes, you're right, this is something that we need to address, right? They should do that. They should always be doing that. Any system in the game, there's not a perfect system in EVE Online. There are systems that are better or worse, but the most important thing we can do, and which is why balance is so important as well. The most important thing we can do is stress that just because something is in a good place does not mean it's in the best place, and we need to continue to iterate on things over time. So,
okay, well, concerning that, what do you think is the place that the wormholes are at the moment? Are they in the good place? Or are they in the good state right now? Or are they better 3 years ago, or 10 years ago, or is there ways to get them even better?
I'd say they're probably not in as good a place as they were 5 years ago. 5 years ago was 2018. Wormhole space was very active back then. There were a lot of large groups who had larger memberships around. Right now, there are really only, I don't know, maybe a handful of groups I would consider large groups. Obviously, Singularity Syndicate is the biggest group in Wormhole space right now, I believe. Laserhawks is not too far behind them. Then you have groups like Wolves Among Strangers, who are pretty big. Other groups like War and Wormhole can spike up if they need to. Parabellum, Exit Strategy, and Unchained Alliance. These are all groups that could get up to those numbers, but there are very few of them, and not that many of them live in high class space. 5 years ago, there were a lot more. Over time, that has changed. Groups have come and gone. You had groups like AFK, who were a big deal and very active for a long time. Groups like Beyond the Breach, who were big and active for a long time. Hard Knocks obviously was maybe the best example of this. Were perhaps the most influential group in the history of Wormhole space, and now effectively don't exist. So while some people may be more or less excited about some of those, because of the way that those groups played the game, it does mean that there are fewer groups in Wormhole space, which is a net loss. I would say that we're certainly better off than we were a year ago. I don't know if I ask people that. Well, and I ask people about this sometimes, about whether or not if they even remember. But this time a year ago, Hang on one second. I'm sorry.
Well, this time a year ago, sorry was not in a wormhole, so yeah, like wormhole.
Yeah. So this time a year ago, oh boy, we I saw I logged in one night and I saw a U.S. time zone player count of
Oh yeah,
10,000.
yeah, I saw that.
And that was pretty bad. Or maybe it was 11,000. Either way, it was very, very low. And there were a couple of nights where it got pretty bad. And there, I remember we had some conversations early on among the CSM when we first, when we first got elected. And our concern was that if something didn't change, maybe this was a little self-important, but we were convinced that if something didn't change, we were going to be the last CSM, because there's a certain number that you reach in the player count where once you hit that number, there just aren't that many people actually in space anymore. And people who don't, if you log in and you don't see anybody in space or don't see anybody else logged in, you are less likely to stay logged in, right?
Not only that, it's so much a big machine that you need a lot of people to operate it. Like, you need
Correct.
stuff from all around the place. You need the markets to go, like, to run,
And if none of that's working, then people are going to be less inclined to log in too, right?
Exactly.
So
and
there
as
is
of now we only got like one real market, and
which is disappointing.
Yeah, like,
there are more than one market, but there are nullsec markets being what they are. Like the 1DQ market is pretty big, right?
yes,
But it's not a market that is available to everybody. The horde market is big, but it's not a market that's available to anybody. The fact, man, changing when Potch happened and we lost Niarja and suddenly Amar was cut off. Mm-hmm. That was a big deal for a long time. I don't know if losing Niarja. I mean, Abazon has been a lot of fun. I've done a lot of stuff in Abazon. People have gotten a lot of content out of Abazon, which is neat. But I don't know if it was worth it. I have no idea. What if we'd been better off if they had kept that lifeline up between Jita and Amar? Certainly, it's affected the Amar market, and all the other markets, Dodixie, Renz, Heck, have all suffered pretty badly too. So,
yeah, we used to be in the south, and like Amar took quite a dip at that time.
Yeah, it did, and it still sucks now, which is unfortunate because Amar, for Wormhole, Amar is pretty centrally located for. I feel like most of our high stack connections tend to end up around Amar, or around Mimitar space, and there's nothing out there, which is disappointing. So, we do the best we can, but the numbers have come up since then.
Like right now, like at the time of the recording, we're at like 21,000.
Yeah, 21,000 for. I mean, this is basically U.S. time zone, right? This is early U.S. time zone. This is not too bad for us. For a Sunday afternoon, I feel pretty good about that. I've seen it get as high as 24,000 in our time zone, which is great. Even late, like even into I'm Eastern time zone, so like midnight, 1 a.m. Eastern time zone. I've seen that number stay up around 16,000, 17,000, which is pretty good, considering after here, you've got West Coast United States, which is pretty substantial, and then a whole bunch of nothing until you get to AUTC. So, we feel good about where. I would say I feel good about the state of wormholes right now. There are a lot of speaking anecdotally, there are a lot of smaller wormhole groups that we've seen kind of crop up over the last couple of years. A lot of groups who, had not, maybe they had been groups before, like your group, Goose Flock, a group that has been in and out of wormhole space. There have been a handful of smaller groups that have moved to high class space, which is cool. And those groups are more active than they have been over the last couple of years. So while the diversity is not quite the same as it has been in the last couple of years, you still have plenty of groups like, Chifis that are very active and very, very, very good. Groups like Novak, who are very good and very active, groups like Space Mutts that are very good and very active, and then of course all the ones I've named already. So having those kind of groups be available and be active participants in the ecosystem, I feel like is good for us. It is a sign that people are not willing to give up on wormhole space just yet. I feel like if people were truly burnt out over the whole thing and wanted nothing more to do with it, then you wouldn't see this kind of response. You wouldn't see people latching on to any new change and trying to do cool creative stuff with it. You would see them just kind of packing it in, maybe crabbing primarily, and then calling it quits. So I feel confident where we're at now. I don't think, like I said, I don't think this is the best place we could be. I still think that we have a lot of work we still need to do, but I don't think it's in such a bad place now that we need to be worried. We stepped up to the brink. We looked down, past the brink, and then we stepped away from it. So we still have the opportunity to fall in if we're not careful, but we're not quite there yet.
Are there things that we could add, or that you would like to be add into wormhole space that you can actually discuss?
Yeah, J-Hubs would be pretty cool. I know that's one of your questions too. Yeah. So anybody who saw my presentation, so at the summit in February, we went to CCP's headquarters in Iceland. I had the opportunity on day 5 of the summit or on Friday of the summit to do a presentation. I actually have a picture of that somewhere that you can throw up if you want to. See if I can find it real quick. Well, that's the picture. There's a picture of. Hang on, see if I can find it. Here it is. Yeah, this is a funny picture. So I'll send this over to you real quick. You'll get a kick out of this. All right. So while that's loading up, this is the picture from inside HQ. I'm not sure who everybody is in the back in this picture. The gentleman sitting in front of me on his laptop is CCP Zealous. Yeah, my homie. I love CCP Zealous. And then the gentleman in the back with the spotlight on him in red hair is CCP Helmar.
Yeah.
So that is pretty cool. And it was just, we got had the opportunity to talk in front of those folks about wormhole space, about things we would like to see different, things I would like to, a lot of it was just a refresher course too for some of the people in in that sphere who might not be as familiar with what we do, right? So explaining wormhole mechanics, explaining the ecosystem, how we make money, the whole 9 yards. So there we go. Yeah. Not too bad. That's pretty good. But yeah, so we during that presentation, I had the opportunity to talk about J-Hubs, which are an idea that it was not my idea originally. There were a couple of other individuals who had worked on this a couple years ago. I think after Izuki's term as CSM and before the first term where we didn't have anybody, there was a group of wormhole CEOs and other community members who kind of got together and were working on a creative solution to the issue of content in wormhole space, because currently the best content in wormhole space, the most consistent content in wormhole space, is hitting timers, which kind of sucks because it is a lot of pressure on groups who might not be able to handle that, to deal with eviction threats or deal with people hitting their structures. This isn't as huge an issue as it has been in years past. Certainly it is still a concern for a lot of groups, and a lot of people put a lot of effort, a lot of time into prepping their home defenses. What we had talked about was a system you could introduce where I think it's going to rain here soon. Oh, Jesus Christ, it is going to rain here soon. A system you could introduce where you had a separate structure that you could anchor in your home that offered passive benefits that increased in value over time to your group, but then offered an instant benefit if you were to kill it, and that benefit would increase over time as well. The idea being you want something that is going to benefit both the group who lives there and the group who wants to come by and attack the thing, right? The MacGuffin, whatever it is. And we talked about a couple different options, a couple different ideas. The J Hub is kind of a neat one. Basically, it's a structure that would be you would anchor it in your home. It would offer passive benefits maybe to the number of ore anomalies that spawn. Maybe it's a benefit to the number of gas sites you have, or the quantity of gas sites, or rather the quantity of gas in the sites, or make your moons better. I know that's a question we're going to get to as well. And the flip side to this is that you would core it, and the core would increase in value over time.
Just like a nullsec,
correct.
Yeah, same like
and would make it a good target for people who wanted to show up to your house and knock something down without having to evict you to do it, right? So, and one of the other cool things we talked about was that anchoring a J-Hub in your home would allow you to edit the name of the system because of, all the wormhole space, all the wormhole systems all start with a J. We call them J tags, J, and then 6 digits. We could, all you would basically do is just append your name, the name of the system, because everybody names their own homes in wormhole space. You would have the J tag, a hyphen, and then the name of your home. So my group, Turbo Feeder Glory, our home is called Gloria, so it would just be like J130 or whatever the fuck our J tag is. You would think I would know it off the top of my head. Yeah, I was right. 134702 dash Gloria, right? And then other groups would.
Could we actually, as fuel, use corpses for the glory of Bob?
So it's interesting that you mentioned that.
Really?
that is an idea. I can't remember who talked about that, but the idea of sacrificing, because I think at one point in that presentation I described wormholers as a blood cult. Which is, I feel like, true. I think wormholers are a unique breed who are kind of uniquely violent in the game, and that's not to say that they are the only kind of group that does that. There are certainly plenty of other groups in the game who.
Maybe to add to that point, last Saturday it was our Sorry Saturday Night special, and it's once a month. Every time we do that, we got at maximum 2 corpse each, where we go at the sun, we jettison the corpse, and while throwing fireworks at it, we tell the story of how we acquired that corpse.
Nice, yeah.
And it goes around until there's no more corpse left.
And that was a cool bit of the idea of dropping corpses at the sun is kind of a cool bit of wormholer lore that I got to share with those folks. That they, some of them just didn't know. They didn't know about the traditions and the superstitions and what I told them was, if you have a system like wormhole rolling, right, where it is purely RNG based, it's random every single time, inevitably what's going to happen is people will find some kind of pattern in the madness, and they will find some reason to equate some kind of let's say extra normal force to the results of what is effectively random chance.
It's simple. It's Bob.
Correct. I mean, it's just, and that's what Bob is. Bob is the people seeing a pattern in the numbers, right? It's people seeing a face in the clouds, right? It's you're seeing a picture in the static. That's what Bob is, and that's why wormhole space is so cool. Is because that is like a foundational thing. That's not something that happened later. That's not something that people just tried to shoehorn in because they thought it'd be funny or cool. Like there is no system in wormhole space that is not in some way affected by the fact that it is a random number generator and to determine what hole you're going to roll into. So I believe that the that wormhole space is special in this way, and unique, and certainly very fun. A lot more interesting, I feel like, than a lot of other regions of space are. But by the same token, that you offer different kind of challenges that way. And one of the biggest issues for the longest time has been, hang on, I'm about to hear some thunder. It's storming outside my house right now, which is great. Actually, I'm stoked because
Oh, we hear it.
yeah, there you go. Yeah, we've needed rain for a long time. This is a pretty good microphone. We've needed rain for a long time, and it's so hot down here right now. It's crazy. It was like 98 degrees today. It was nuts. Anyway,
Yeah.
all I'm saying is the problem with wormhole space has been that the most consistent content for groups who are into that sort of thing is and has been evictions, and evictions are honestly kind of suck. I've done plenty of them myself. I will probably do plenty more in the future. I don't necessarily enjoy them, but they are reliable content.
Yeah, and that's
If
a bit
you,
sad that that's the only reliable content that you can get between wormholers.
it is, and part of that is because, part of it has to do with the fact that you are never assured a connection to somebody. Part of it is because there's a dearth right now of large targets in wormhole space. There are fewer dreads out than ever because of marauder crabs being so much more effective than and cost effective in some cases than dreads. And there are no oracles out in wormhole space because our moons suck and they have been bad for a long time. So shoring up with some of those issues would help, I think, and give people more things to do. Evictions are always going to be a thing. There is no stronger way to tell somebody to kiss off than an eviction. If you really need to drive a point home, that's the best way to do it. That being said, I do feel like there should be a middle kind of option. In terms of levels of content, like at the very top, you have evictions. If you really want to tell somebody to go, eat a brick. Then you've got down at the bottom, you've got ganking, crabs or ganking rollers or whatever, and then somewhere in the middle there is that's kind of where fights are, where fights happen. But fights are kind of unreliable, very dependent on time zones, and it's hard to get them to line up. So having an option in there for something different would be kind of cool.
Because just to try to find content, yesterday we're on the road. It took us 56 system until we could actually get a fight.
Bro, yeah, you're telling me. I especially in C5 space, my group rage rolls pretty frequently. We will sit there and roll our C5 static over and over and over and over again for hours, trying to find something, and usually we do. We've gotten pretty lucky the last, which is also a good sign that wormhole space isn't completely dead. But at the same time, there are a lot of empty systems out there right now that there's nothing going on. So the first best thing we can do always is get more people active in wormhole space. Find ways to get people more involved, find ways to expose people more to not just wormhole space, but also the groups that live in wormhole space. And that's why one of the reasons why I took the job when Brisk offered me the position on the Meta Show too, is because I wanted to give some exposure to wormhole space on arguably the biggest stage that we have. I mean, the Imperium News' biggest show, and the Imperium News is certainly the biggest media group among all the different null blocks. So finding a way to get the message out there, I guess, if you want to look at it like that, was my biggest goal. So I feel like we've accomplished some of that. There's still a lot of work left to do, but I feel pretty good about it.
What's really funny is that you're on the Meta Show, and I'm the main engineer in TIS, which is the other big show.
Hell yeah, yeah.
So wormholes, you won't have those show without us.
And that's I feel that is one of the things that has always been true. I mean, there have always been wormholers everywhere. And Exuki's, for example,
Yeah.
he was he was crazy active for the longest time in all the different spheres that people were involved in, and he did a lot of work to try and get more exposure out for wormholers, for wormhole space. And he did a lot of really great work there too. So this is not anything new. Our people have been doing this sort of thing for a long time, and my hope is, as we turn the corner into the third decade of Eve's development, that will continue to be the case going forward too.
Great, great, great. And as a lot of people actually know, I'm not running this year because I don't want to divide the vote toward Mark Resurrectus. Last year I finished 18th on my first time running for CSM, so
Pretty
I hope
good,
that.
honestly.
Well, thank you very much.
Of course, of course.
And I hope that all those votes will go directly to you.
I have been kind of floored, and I was certainly floored last year with how positive a response we got. Coming off of CSM 16, where we were so close, I thought maybe we'd be able to edge up another position or so and get closer. But there was a moment when near the very end where somebody went out. I can't remember who it was now off the top of my head, and I picked up a bunch of votes from that person and realized that there were a lot of ballots where I was high on the ballot, maybe not number one on the ballots, but I did was picking up a lot of votes that way. That felt pretty good. It was nice to see people kind of vibe with what we wanted to say and the work we were trying to do. The attitude shifts over time, right? You see more, you get more involved, you know more about how everything works, and my approach has changed over between last year and this year. I have seen CCP, I've seen how it works, I understand better who to contact, who you need to be reaching out to about any specific issue, like how the machine works, and so much of what you pick up from being on the CSM is this kind of understanding about how the machine operates, because CCP is endlessly complex, but perhaps needlessly complex. And anything that needs to get done has, it is very arcane in a lot of cases. So I think I went in with a little bit more piss and vinegar last year than I would this year. I've certainly mellowed out a lot more on a lot of these issues, just because I understand that it is not worth getting worked up over. It is much more
Effective.
Yes, much more effective, much more productive to take a measured response to so many of these issues. So I have, of course, a list of things I'm still working on. I still want to get a change for force auxiliaries for faxes. Because the high class groups have been asking for that for a long time. I myself would like to see some more triage on grid, getting bigger targets out more frequently, always a benefit. Working on some of the lower class PvE sites would be great.
Talking.
I know. Well, and so much of it is not just because they don't. I don't think that they should kick out as much blue loot. But I feel like there are other cool options for making them more valuable or giving them more interesting things to do.
Yeah, it's not because the number is lower that it should not be differently interesting.
Right. Finding, and that has been sort of the big thing, right? Finding ways to make it differently interesting is important, I think. And then of course all the other little things that all the bug fixes, all the balance changes, finding ways to break away for, when I talk to people, the things I hear most frequently are, oh, well, everybody's just flying Lashaks now, and everybody's just flying Nighthawks now, and what, how do we find balance in that? So these are all things where, there are 10, soon to be 12 voices on the CSM, and everybody comes in with different interests, right? Everybody comes in with different points of view, and not everybody is the same. Everybody kind of assumes, I feel like in a lot of cases, that a lot of the null set candidates are all just kind of the same because they're all null set candidates. that hasn't been true in my opinion. In my experience, everybody comes in with different ideas, different objectives, and they all play the game a different way. You're not going to tell me that Casimir plays the game the same way as Jinx, or the same way as Panda, or the same way as me, or
And they
Arcee, or
don't run
anybody.
campaigns the same way either.
And they certainly do not run campaigns the same way. That is true. I mean, I'd be surprised if Casimir runs a campaign this year. He is certainly he's basically shoe in. I'd be
He's
shocked.
not alone in that case. Like, we'll be frank.
True.
There's like 4C that we know who's gonna be there for sure.
And it's not to say that their opinions are. I would say that we were very lucky this last year, and this is, I know we're getting here towards the end of it, but one of the things I wanted to say that is important for me is that we were profoundly fortunate this last year that we ended up with the group that we had. This was my first year doing it. I kind of went in. I didn't really know what to expect, and the group we ended up with was really, really good. Top to bottom, there was not anybody in that group who just did not have something to contribute, and didn't contribute frequently. That has been a problem, I know, in years past. Just from speaking to some other CSM, there were some years where there were seat warmers is a good way to put it. Yes, and maybe not even seat warmers, because that implies somebody sitting in the chair in the first place. And that's frustrating because there are only 10 slots, right? Or only 12 slots. And every time that somebody decides to check out and not get involved, or go do something else, that is not ideal. So, I've also campaigned for a system wherein the CSM or CCP or some combination therein could, kind of self-police that, where if somebody just straight up is not involved, not doing the bare minimum work you need to do to be on this group, that actions could be taken to maybe, move them aside and get somebody else in there who is actually going to do the thing. I hope that would not ever be a problem, but I haven't run into. Certainly was not a problem this year. Top to bottom, everybody was great. Everybody contributed. Everybody had great ideas.
Well, it was so great that they gave you a few months more.
They actually, yeah, and we joked at one point because we've gotten a lot of really positive feedback from CCP too, about how this term has gone, and when they said they were going to extend the term through September,
Brisk must be like
Brisk
so
was
joyful.
Furious. He was so mad. He can't wait to be done. And they're like, no, you got a couple more months. You can't leave yet. So I'm looking forward to. I hope we can repeat the same success we had last year. I feel pretty confident that we can hit those numbers. Part of it has been working with as many groups as possible, trying to get people involved, trying to be as transparent as I can be within the realms of the NDA to try and bring our people closer to those processes, right? And while at the same time doing as much as I can outside of wormhole space to get the name out there. So much of it is it's a popularity contest. There's no secret. Yep. Like you need to have a certain amount of exposure. And I feel like we've been able to do a lot of that this last year, but time will tell. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Like earlier, before we were recording, we were thinking that it was the first time that we spoke to one another, and now I just got something that popped into my mind that there was this show in last year when we actually.
You're right. Yes, it was
the Battle Royale.
DTM's show.
Yeah.
Yes. I do remember that.
Do you remember the kill mail?
Oh my gosh. Yes, I do. Oh yeah. You killed me in Jita, jackass. I do remember this now. I didn't deserve to die. I played that very well. I had a good strat. No, and that is the kind of thing that is, from my point of view, the most exciting thing about running for the CSM. Like, win, lose, draw, whatever. The fact that I've been able to talk to so many people, meet so many cool people, share experiences, share perspectives, and then, if you do get on, being able to take that experience up to, just the fact of being on the CSM, people will come to you who you've never spoken to before in your life, and say, hey, I have this problem. I think that if we did, this thing, we might be able to address it. And those are the kind of things you can then take to them and say, hey, if you guys can find some time in your busy schedule, here are some ideas for
Yeah, like the
XYZ.
moons in wormhole.
Like moons and wormhole space, man. Saying that would be that is the focus of one or two emails I've received is probably a miscarriage of justice. It's probably been more like 30 or 40.
Oh, wow.
But these are all things people. I mean, I've always told people, if you see a concern and you have an idea, DM me. I might not be able to address everything, and certainly my Discord DMs are a nightmare right now. They are just absolutely chock full of unread messages, and so I do the best I can to try and get through everything, but it is tricky. But I still want to hear about it. I want to know, and if you feel strongly enough about it, then reach out to me, or if you're not comfortable with me for some reason, reach out to any one of the other CSM and ask people, or run yourself. I mean, these are all, I ran because I saw that we didn't have a wormhole CSM. I thought that was kind of dumb. I really wanted to address some issues. I mean, that was back when I lived in a C4 and I was addressing low class issues. Now I'm trying to address both, right? So these are all things where, it's not just about being popular or being good at the game or anything like that. It's much more about what can you do to get your message out there, to find the right people to talk to, and present your case in a credible and compelling way. And I feel like we did that last year. I hope we can do it this year. And I really hope that folks will give me a second chance.
And if I'm not mistaken, like on your Alliance Discord, there's a section called Space Camp where like people can actually ask CSM's related question, right?
There is, and I'm sure that you're going to link my Discord in there as well too. We do
in the description, people.
Right. Yeah. So I try to hit those as much as I can. Those I'm also very bad about because I get so many notifications on a day-to-day basis. I miss a lot of them. I'll try and come back and touch on ones that are of particular note. But that is the best way. That and like sending me emails in game are probably the best way to get like right in front of me and like say, hey, we've got this thing that's going on. But I would also say in general, if you find an issue or find something that is problematic, putting together like as silly as it sounds, putting together a video that I can put in front of somebody at CCP is so much easier than me just showing up and be like, hey, so and so said that this is a problem and they think it needs to be fixed.
Okay, so if for I don't know, any, let's say, reason we got our mascot Castardamo that makes like videos of things that should be improved.
Listen, before you say anything else, I've seen that fucking beaver. Okay, that thing is that is a creature not of this earth, sir. That is a beast that crawled forth from the inky pit. And if I put that in front of CCP, it will curse them to the end of their days. I cannot, in good faith, damn these people to hell.
Damn, that's the word. The word.
Damn is the word. That's right. Jesus, that is funny. But no, we having. I mean, just like the other day, there was that video that got posted about people using abyssal filaments to move through wormhole space, like effectively teleport through wormhole space. Video went up. I think it got listed as an exploit within 2 days. So those kind of things are compelling. People CCP are just, they're full of humans. It is a company full of humans. And the best way that we can communicate with them is like you would communicate with anybody else. I mean, they've all got jobs. This is their job. They're busy people. So finding a way that we can communicate with them in ways that a normal human would want to interact with, if it's just like a 5 minute video that explains the situation, that is compelling.
Well,
That is effective.
a
I
good
think in a
way
lot
to
of cases.
remember something is to have like a good emotion attached to it, and laugh is pretty good. Or
Yes,
fear.
fear is very good. In some cases more than others.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, if you want to reach out to me for whatever reason, if you have any other questions for me, my Discord obviously is always open. You can hit me up with my DMs. It's DJKAKTUS, DJ Cactus. Obviously, and Eve, Mark Resurrectus is the contact there. You can also reach out to me at my email address because I have one of those. I don't know if I've ever gotten an email on that address, but it is there. Executor@turbofeederglory.com.
Ooh,
Yeah, pretty cool. Pretty
I know
snazzy.
we got one of those.
Hell yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, the CSM campaign is always so much fun. Always cool to reach out to folks you've not talked to in a long time or not seen in a while, and doing shows like this is always really fun for me too. So, because I cannot for the life of me figure out how to shut the fuck up, and putting me in front of a microphone for any period of time is
Actually, before we run out of time, I would like to
Sure,
ask
go
you
ahead.
the last question.
Yeah, hit me. What you got?
Why should beavers vote for you?
Why should beavers vote for me? I would say it's because I have the most raw sex appeal of any of the candidates.
You have the most, like, the best beard there is. If you look at
That's
our
true.
symbol, like, I think it's you.
Yeah, it's not. It's me, and it's not even close, honestly. And I pride myself in that. I can reach the high. I'm very tall. I can reach the high shelf. If you need something off the high shelf, I can get that
Oh,
for you.
yeah, beavers are
I can.
small. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, exactly. And more than anything else, I haven't been doing this as long as some people. And the thing about Eve that keeps me coming back is how much I enjoy the people who make up Eve Online and the people who play this game. And there's nothing that compels me more to work harder than trying to bring back people we've lost, trying to bring back people who might want to give Eve another try, and people who want desperately to not leave and want the game to be as good as possible. So my goal always has been to find creative solutions to make the game as compelling as it can be for as old as it is. While still maintaining, the aspects that make Eve Eve. I've worked hard the last year. I will continue to work hard into the future with your patience and understanding and your sincere, well, I guess just with your votes. If you make this happen, I will continue to work for you, beavers, and all the little worm babies out there. To try and make Eve as good a game as it can be, with the resources we have available. So I feel strongly about it. Yeah, thank you. I feel strongly about it. We still have a lot of work left to do, and if I thought that I was done, I would say I'd be done. But we still have so much we can get done. So
Great. Well, it was a pleasure, Mark, and like we will be voting for you. That is for sure. We'll be doing like a whole ballot, but I can tell you right away that you will be our number one.
I appreciate it. Thank you all so much, and thank you, Ben, for having me here.
It's our pleasure. So don't forget, Beaver, like and subscribe. Hit this bell icon to get all other interview that we are gonna get concerning the CSM, because there's a lot of people also that it's gonna get to our ballot, and there are wonderful people. And even if you're not a wormhole and that you're listening to that, those people are people of value that can actually help a lot. The way that Eve is. So stay tuned and see you in the next video. Au revoir.